After a lukewarm announcement at E3, we've finally gotten to play Fallout 76. The beta has helped answer some questions, but it leaves one more question for me personally, and that is why? I played the game for a few hours the other week on Go to Bedcast, so if anyone wants to watch the stream of me playing with my friends, the link is in the description. To summarize my thoughts on the game, it feels like Fallout 76 is a full game that is about Destiny or Borderlands side content, or even just Fallout 4's miscellaneous quests. Although my first thought walking out the vault was, wow, there is finally a multiplayer Fallout game. So today I'm going to be talking about the good and the bad of the Fallout 76 beta, my impressions of it, and as a disclaimer, I've had to re-record this footage and also re-record this voiceover because I screwed up on the previous render and my thoughts have also changed because of the patch they put out this week. I'll go more into that later, so let's get started. First with the good. Storytelling is still present. This game could actually narratively be very strong as a single-player game. If that was your concern. I do think that there should be more open world things. It really feels like, you know, there are no NPCs or anything and they're really relying on you to interact with other players. And I'll get more into other things about that later, but essentially, I think there's plenty of room for having NPC stuff and wild events that occur in the open world still on top of other players. But storytelling and narrative is absolutely very present, and there is actually some Enclave lore that you can follow for the main story, if you were so interested in it. And the entire game is filled to the brim with holotapes and notes laying all about that have so much, you know, lore everywhere, and tells the stories of the people that lived in places, you know, before the bombs fell. Now, some people might not like how many holotapes there are. It is kind of ridiculous that, like, you know, why would so many people record themselves on holotape before anything? I know that was like a criticism for BioShock and how many times there were like voice recordings all over the place. But I mean, there's also plenty of written stuff just written down too, so that kind of makes a little more sense. The music is also fantastic. I wish Fallout 4 had the level of music that Fallout 76 has. It's very atmospheric and very good ambience. The art style is also pretty good. I do enjoy seeing new things modeled in the style that is now established in Fallout 4 and in this game. I like seeing it. And also the survival mechanics. The survival mechanics are pretty good. You have food and water meter that you have to keep up. There is weapon degradation, and I personally am a fan of that. I liked it in Fallout 3 in New Vegas and wish, you know, they would brought it back, and I mean, here it is. And then there's also diseases. And while these things don't necessarily kill you, they, you know, can drastically debuff you. So, yeah, I think the survival mechanics that are incorporated are okay, but some people may say it's not enough. But unfortunately, that's it for the good, so I'm gonna continue on with some bad things. While the art style is pretty good, the graphics are not, you know, the best. I don't think this engine looks good anymore. I wish they would move on to a new engine and you know, have the game looking much better. And this also ties into my next point, which is performance. The game's performance on PC is what I'm playing on is absolutely atrocious. It's terrible. And, you know, anyone that's played Fallout 4 knows it, and knows that this engine has issues when it's not in full screen. If the game's like borderless window, which is what a lot of, you know, games strive to have their standard as borderless window, and this game doesn't do it. You have to keep this game full screen if you want good performance. The issue with that is, you know, if you want to alt-tab out of a full-screen game like this, I had issues where the resolution size would change randomly, and I think that's really funny because if you change the resolution in the in-game options, you're told that you have to restart the game for them to apply. But if you alt-tab out of full screen enough, it's gonna swap resolutions anyways. Clearly, while the game is still open, I don't know. And we all know from Fallout 4, in Fallout 4, the Boston City area had atrocious frame rates. And in 76, there are way more cities, a lot bigger too, so the frame rate suffers a lot in those city areas. Your real solution is to keep the game at full screen. Now, one of my issues with the performance that was patched was I have a 144Hz monitor, and these games, these Fallout 4 and 76, have previously what they did was they used VSync to keep the frame rate. Now here's the problem with using VSync as the frame rate cap in a game like this. If you have a 60 Hz monitor, you're gonna be fine. It's either gonna be 60 FPS or 30 FPS. If you have a 144 Hz monitor and you don't have the graphical capabilities to get 144, which who can blame you, it's a terrible engine, then you have to get 72. But 72 is still really hard to get because, again, terrible engine. So if you can't do 144 or 72, you have to settle with 48. And if you want to go lower than 48, you're going to 24. The frame rates are terrible, and if you have a 144 Hz monitor, this is an issue. However, what the patch did was it introduced an actual frame cap that is not VSync related to 63 FPS. I don't know why specifically 63 and not just 60. If anyone knows the answer to that, leave a comment. What you had to do before and what you still have to do for Fallout 4 is you have to use NVIDIA Profile Inspector to set an actual frame rate cap and also turn VSync off. So thankfully after this patch the performance is a bit improved, but again, outside of full screen the performance is absolutely atrocious and is unacceptable, frankly. But moving on for performance and graphics. And on to gameplay. So, alright, Fallout 4 is a better action game than it is an RPG. And one of the great things about the action in Fallout 4 was Fallout 4 has a cover system. For some reason they removed the cover system in 76. This is a really weird thing that they removed that I wish they didn't and they would add back, because it just feels like it's dumbing down combat just a little bit, or even just a little unpolished. I don't know. I don't like this change for whatever reason it was made. The perk system also feels incredibly arbitrary. Going into it and after E3, I thought, alright, well this probably, lets you get an actual build and build your character a lot better than Fallout 4 would. That's actually not the case at all, and it's more like the random cards that you get determine your build instead of you determining your build. Now they clearly are going somewhere with this. They're intending for it to be like that, where your cards determine your build. But I don't like that. I really do not like that, and I don't like the perk system in Fallout 4 to begin with. So I guess that's just me. Oh, next is connection issues. Now these issues I'm pretty sure are gonna be, refined and potentially worked on and won't happen as much in a year from now. They'll be patched and working better. Unlike the graphical issues, many of the graphical issues like optimization, I don't think that's gonna get fixed because it was pretty bad in Fallout 4. But they did patch the frame rate cap, so we'll have to see on that. But connection issues I do expect to be fixed. There's constant teleporting of enemies. Enemies just will teleport around, or they'll move around and zip across the screen. There's so many times where the player gets stuck and the game soft locks, or enemies teleport and get stuck, items get stuck. And also things just take a second to go. Before you can pump water and collect water, you have to wait a second. Before you can sometimes managing your inventory, it takes a second for your items to update. And normally, that server things like, item management, that's okay. The problem is when you have to deal with this connection lag in the middle of action. Doing really quick item management that you have to do to pull out a weapon or set a grenade or whatever really quickly while you're in the middle of combat. If you don't, you're gonna die. You gotta work really quickly. But you're not limited to how fast you can move your fingers and item and menuing. You're limited by the speed of the connection, or your connection to the server. And it's a bit frustrating, but that can get fixed. But I want to talk now about the most frustrating thing that's in this game, and I think it is poor enemy spawns. What happens in this game is enemies will spawn in mobs in the same exact location and then come at you. Now you could be exploring a mine, minding your own business, and enemies can pop up, but all of a sudden, literally right in front of you spawns 12 of the Scorched with shotguns, and they're surrounding you. And sometimes it's not literally right in front of you, but when I say literally right in front of you, I mean they can appear right in front of you, and that happens sometimes. Sometimes it's not right in front of you, it could be behind you. It could be the sides, it could be behind a wall sometimes, and they just come around to you. Sometimes that happens, but it's possible where they could just spawn right in front of you. But also right behind you is really bad too. And they spawn in mobs. Oh my god. I don't think this game is that difficult. It's got a challenge or a curve to learning it, and I'll talk more about that in a second. But the way enemies spawn is very poor design, and I hope it gets updated later. So back to the curve of the game thing I was about to talk about. Enemies around the open world are clearly placed by level, and the game doesn't really do much to guide you in the correct ways to go to manage that. Like if you want to, you know, branch out and explore, you could find some higher level enemies. So what happens when, you know, you just go to explore, because that's what you can do, you can explore in this game, you can run into some really high level enemies, and they're gonna shoot you and kill you, or you kill them. But guess what, you know, what happens when you kill high level monsters? You get high level loot, but there's a level requirement to loot. So you're not really rewarded for killing higher level enemies. So I don't think this game really does exploration progress and rewarding the player with it correctly. I forgot to mention this before when I was talking about frame rate in this game. Because of the locked frame rate, I've had it happen a few more times where there is random physics damage. Like, you know, if you walk over a prop that has physics enough times, it's probably gonna, like, I don't know, clip into the ground and then clip up and hit you and do damage. Sometimes that can kill you. I haven't had it kill me in 76. I've had that happen plenty in Fallout 4. But, you know, random, that can kill you. That can hurt you. So this is what I think. I think for this game, for an open world Fallout, they should have started with a new engine. They should have started from scratch and not built on Creation that built on Gamebryo on an engine that's like 15 years old now. They have the resources. If they really wanted to do it and really wanted to do an open world Fallout, I feel they really could have. There's just too many limitations from the game engine. That's where I think the shortcomings of Fallout 76 are the limitations imposed by this engine. And while most of my negative points are things that will probably be patched or, you know, adjusted in the future, I do not believe I'm going to get this game at launch. I do think it'll be worth picking up maybe in a year when it's a far less price, because content-wise, even outside of like single player, I don't think this is a $60 game, honestly. But I mean, it does have my interest and can definitely hold me into playing for a certain amount of time, just not for $60. So yeah, those are my thoughts. Again, I re-recorded this, so I probably missed out on some things that I said previously in my past recording, but I've covered the main points and narrowed down what I repeated in the last one. So thanks for watching. Feel free to share your thoughts on Fallout 76 and the beta and your experiences, impressions with it in the comments below, and we'll see how the game turns out at launch and turns out within the following year. So thanks for watching, and I'll see you all next time.